The tax bands have changed, the brackets have changed, yet people have not changed their payroll systems, which means the employees are not benefiting from those changes. So it's really for us to just encourage those who are running businesses to pay attention to those numbers.
Amazing. Yeah. Dr. Maureen, coming to you, any takeaways from the presentation of the national budget?
Okay, something I would regard as a takeaway from the minister's presentation regarding the budget, I would add on what Mr. Kabanda has said. So with the revised exempt figure from the 4,800 to 5,100, we are already seeing a revision in the net pay for employees. Just like at the beginning of this year, we had that revision from 4,500 to 4,800. That's so many employees having an increase in their net pays. This is something we already foresee for 2024. There is probably going to be an increase in the net pays for employees. Looking at the exempt as well as the 0.5 reduction for the high earners. So that's what I would give as one of the keynotes from the budget.
Amazing. Mr. Katongo, the slate mentioned that that should be last week and should be 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks we did talk about quite interesting topics which got people out there talking, sending in text messages, saying thank you, Mr. Kabanda, for quite amazing topics which you've been discussing on KBN TV's Labor Matters. And I just want to say thank you. So someone thanked me to tell you that, tell Mr. Kabanda, thank you very much for the amazing conversations we've been having on it. I'm like, not a problem. I will tell him.
We greatly appreciate even the feedback. It means a lot to us. We're trying to share information to really help both employees and employers. We know some business owners have said, hey, you're sharing too much and people are knowing too much. But really, the intention of the program is not to create problems. Rather, is for employees to know their rights, as well as their obligations, as well as the employers to know their rights and their obligations, because once these two are balanced, then you have a better work environment. Sometimes because people don't know better, they have unrealistic expectations about their employers simply because they don't know. So it's a matter of through this program, what we're trying to do is to share information and put it out there. We know there are few people who talk about these issues, but they are really affecting a lot of people, because remember, every day people are waking up and they are going to work. They are trying to make money. So it is through this kind of programs where you start to know what is it that I can do with my money, with my job, with my life, and things of that nature. So we appreciate the feedback.
Amazing. Coming to today's topic, Mr. Kabanda, effective employee management. Could you maybe clarify who management or employer refers to in accordance with Section 3 of the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019, specifically for those given authority over others?
So in talking about effective employee management, really it's a topic that will cover areas of employment. Because remember, in terms of work, like we said, people wake up every day, they are going to work. So it's important that they are properly managed so that you really can get the best out of them. So one of the confusions that we see is that sometimes those people who are given authority to supervise others or to manage others, sometimes they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so that is where we are looking at these aspects. And for someone to be called an employer, for instance, they need to be in a position of authority. And like you have rightly said, under Section 3 of the Employment Code, it's very clear who an employer is. And that means, like we have said in previous episodes, a supervisor, a manager, a foreman, and anybody who has authority over another employee, those constitute what is referred to as employer. And what that means is that they need to start, all those who are supervisors, the foremen, and whatever position the person has, they need to start thinking through, what do I need to do in order to make sure that the employees that are under me, they are properly looked after, they are happy, they are reporting for work, and they are being productive. Because by looking at those things, the person who is the supervisor takes on the responsibility of making sure that that person who's coming, they're happy, and the employer also is getting the best out of them. So all those who are in management, they have a huge responsibility to manage the people well. And that's why I know the challenge that is there usually is it's from the fact that when remember, even these supervisors, they're also employees, not so.
True.
So sometimes you find, in terms of the way they are making decisions, you are first of all forgetting that you are representing the employer. Yes, it's like having two legs in two different places, you know. So when you join the employment, you sign the contract. So yes, they are employees. So if you're a supervisor, manager, you are also an employee. But at the end of the day, you're also an employer. So it is for this group of people to always think about what is it that is expected of them, to make sure that they do the very best. The decisions they make, they are meant to help both the employer and the employee. The way they carry themselves, they're supposed to make sure that they are representing the employer and the employee. So the employee in them and the employer they represent, those have to be combined. And I know it is not usually an easy thing, and that's why there are trainings that people can undertake. They can be sent for various trainings to understand this role and just make sure that what they do is done properly. Because a decision that a supervisor makes, if today they fire the person, that they are not going to be sued in their personal capacity, to be the company that will be sued. So it is those kind of things that employers, in this case supervisors, have to pay attention to.
Coming to you, Dr. Maureen, how does a supervisor or manager contribute to the creation and sustenance of the corporate culture within an organization?
Okay, so when we talk of corporate culture, we're actually looking at how we're presenting the organization. Mm-hmm. Just like Mr. Kabanda has said, as a supervisor, that person has a responsibility to do so. You have people below you who are your subordinates. You have a responsibility to ensure that the way you're carrying yourself, the values that you're portraying, the things that your subordinates can easily follow, and they'll build a good picture for the overall institution. So as a supervisor in relation to corporate culture, if you're one person who is not inclined to the values of the institution, you're not following them, that makes it difficult for subordinates to portray those values of the institution. So it actually begins with the supervisor on top there, be the flag bearer, be the one to show your subordinates which way they should go. If the values need you to be one person of integrity, you should be in the forefront. Show your subordinates that this is how things should be in this organization, and that's the picture that you're going to show as a corporate entity.
Well explained. Coming to you, Mr. Kabanda, when it comes to planning, what role does a supervisor or manager play within the organization? You know, planning is one huge thing to do in a company as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually now I've been thinking about even the area question you asked around even the 2024 budget. Really, this is where planning also should start coming in. On the one side, the government is making its own plans, but even as an institution and as supervisors, there's also need to make plans. For instance, there are certain, if we talk about even the budget itself, there are certain allocations that have been increased in certain sectors. That means there's more money going to go in that kind of sector. There's more job creation. So if you're a supervisor or a manager or a business owner, what plans are you putting in place to position yourself for that growth in that kind of sector? So it's important that you plan. But generally, coming back to planning for an institution or for a business, it's critical that the business owners, the supervisors, the CEO, the managers, and everybody below them, in terms of those who are in management, in some institutions, they have those executive management committees or management committees or whatever name is used. It's important that those who call themselves managers and supervisors, they start, first of all, understand where the business is going. So we are going to, we are now in Q4, going to the end of the year. What is it that you're going to be doing in the following year? This issue of, the members say, so, you just wake up, okay, no, we are moving. No. There has to be a place where you sit down, supervisors need to sit down, and depending on the approach being used, is it top-down or bottom-up approach in terms of the planning, you sit down and look at where is the institution going. For the bigger corporations, for instance, they have even their strategic plans, they have work plans. They need to sit down and work out their plan. Where are we going this year, next year? What is the budget? What's the cost of those things? For smaller companies where they don't have, or they're starting, they don't have the work plans, or they don't have the strategic plans in place, even them, it's important that they find time. So as supervisors, you sit down, look at where you want to go. What is it? What are our production targets for next year? If you are in the mine, what is it that we want to do next year? You know the cycle. When does it rain? When does this happen? If you are in transport and logistics, you sit down. What is our pattern in the business? If you are in construction, if you are in microfinance, whatever field you are in, even if you are just, your business is a small business, you are doing supply and what you call it, you are buying and supplying. There is need for managers and supervisors to sit down and plan. The reason we are emphasizing this aspect is because when you don't plan, what starts to happen is that now you are going in any direction. And that is a frustration that now comes into the employees. Today you say, no, colleagues, we need to work on this. And you are putting so much pressure on everybody when you have not thought everything through. So that manager, the following day, no, I think colleagues, we didn't think about, I think let's go this way. Now, where are you going? And that now starts to create problems because your employees have put in so much effort. And when they have put in so much effort, they want to see that something is succeeding. So that you tell them good job, or if they can end up even getting a reward or bonus or something. So one of the things we have to really emphasize to managers and supervisors, even if it's a small business, sit down and make the plans. You can do your plans, and as you sit down to do the plans, if you don't know how to do those plans, that's why we keep on emphasizing there are consultants and advisors who can help you and walk your institution through the whole process. And you have to also find a way to look at the resources you have. What do we have as a business? Where do we want to go next year based on how we performed this year and everything else? So the aspect of planning for businesses, this aspect is a responsibility of supervisors and managers. And you can also involve even the employees in the process. Let them tell you, for instance, what were the things that we're working on this year, how did we perform, things that are remaining, things we haven't managed to finalize, what do we need to now incorporate. And as I said, for those bigger companies which have strategic plan, for them it becomes very easy because you are now measuring year on year how you are performing. So you have different parameters, you start working towards those targets. So supervisors have a huge responsibility.
Now, Mr. Kabanda, certain companies might not plan regardless in the first month of the year, middle or end of year, they can't plan.
Yeah.
There are people doing businesses, they can't plan.
That's true.
Do we have any negative impacts when it comes to organizations or people handling certain businesses when they don't plan for their businesses or organizations?
That's very true. The biggest weakness to such kind of an approach is wrongful use of utilization. I mean, wrong utilization of the resources. Now, the resources end up being used for wrong things. Let's talk about people themselves as a resource. You have people reporting every day for work, doing something that at the end of the day doesn't add up to anything. And that is frustrating for the employees because when the employee is working and coming for work, they are looking at applying themselves. So what you end up now having is the situation where somebody now will be coming for work, they are already demoralized, and now you on the other side continue paying a salary. So the employees not being fully utilized or properly utilized, it's the financial resources that's the second issue. You start spending. Money is spent, it could be meetings, it could be transport. You send this officer, if it is like here, if it's in the media front, then you go this way, go that way. If it is in, I don't know, mines and so on, you are spending on these employees. Yet, as they are doing those kind of things, those resources will never come back because they are not adding to anything valuable for the institution. So it's also just the culture that you start creating. There are so many disadvantages really to operating without having a plan. Even a simple plan is good enough. At least just sit down and make some little plan of colleagues, where do we want to go? You ask the team, and that's why sometimes the people feel very nice. You know, I'm promoted, I'm now a manager, I'm director, this. Boss, what are you bringing to the table? It's not just wearing jackets and we don't want to say much, but the issue is bossing around now because I have a big title. This title, we should start seeing the value of having you in that position. You're a manager, you're a director, you're a supervisor. What value are you bringing? Can you show us direction? Because people want to follow a leader who knows, or at least they can see that this leader has some form of direction. And that becomes, it is even a motivation for everybody else. So if you don't have a plan in place, it is going to be a waste of the human resource, financial resource, even your equipment. You utilize them you use them in a way that they shouldn't be used anyway. So it really is not the best thing to do.
Coming to you, Doc, let's talk about recruitment. What specific roles do supervisors or managers take on in the recruitment process?
Okay, so as I respond to your question, I'll touch a little bit on what Mr. Kabanda has said on planning. Yeah. So supervisors equally have a role in planning and recruitment. Supervisors shouldn't just wake up today because you feel like, okay, there's room here, let me fill in this
position.
Spot. No,
yeah.
They should plan. So as the year is beginning, supervisors should plan on what they would like to do, and that includes recruitment. Have the plan in mind, look at your structure. How many positions do you have? How many would you like to fill in at this particular period? As you're planning for the year, you should have it in mind that, okay, I would like to fill in, say, 5 positions, and as a supervisor, you're more like the custodian of that job description for your subordinates. So you are involved in recruitment from the onset, from the time the whole process is starting. You should be the one to see the need of having someone. You should be the one to engage human resource to tell them, okay, would like to bring person A to take up this role. So from onset, yeah, in the whole setup. Of course, you're not going to be the one to publish the advert, draft the advert, but they play a very big role. They should guide the human resource personnel, tell them what they would like, the expertise they would like to bring on board, what that person will be doing. Is there really a vacancy, or maybe it's just an issue of just pleasing people? You're bringing something for the sake of pleasing people. When the
making positions which are not even there.
Yes, creating things just before.
After having some coffee on Friday.
True, so they're connected with the whole planning thing. You look at the need. It's not just about bringing someone. Then during the whole evaluation process, as a supervisor, you can play a big role. You have to be part and parcel as the evaluation is being done to ensure that the person you're bringing on board is the right person. It would be sad to see an employer bringing in someone who's not the best fit for that position. So yeah, supervisors do play a very big role in the recruitment.
Amazing. Mr. Kabanda, coming to you, maybe we can talk about the issue of compensation. What role do supervisors or managers play in salaries and benefits administration?
Yeah, so for the supervisors, foremen, and all those with some title, there are all sorts of titles in these companies. You have superintendents, you have foremen, you have senior something. So really, like what Doc has talked about, once you've done the planning and the people have come in, you've done your recruitment, and you are involved. And we even have to emphasize, even on the part of that recruitment, that even at the end, as she said, that they're involved in the evaluation. When they say this is the person, the supervisor should also make sure they do the induction. So now that the person has come in, the person is working. This person, we always say that there's a reason you wake up.
Yeah.
I know the bigger picture is we are contributing to the development of the nation. But bottom line, it's a money, right? So the people want to get paid at the end of the day. So supervisors have a huge responsibility. Let's talk about starting even just from the timesheets or time cards or attendance registers. If you know that your company requires some timesheets or there's a system at your company that is used, you as a supervisor need to make sure that the people you're signing off those timesheets. We know that like in construction and mines, sometimes you have these registers. Make sure that they're available. In other companies, they don't do those things. They clock in and whatever it is. So the supervisor's job is to make sure that he or she is helping the employees to do the right thing, that to help them to come and be recognized in the payroll. Then at the end of the month or whatever cycle is used, supervisors need to make sure that they sign off those timesheets or whatever it is that is required. If the person requires to go, let's say, to go and look for some document just when they have started, give them some chance so that they bring the documents that are necessary for that person to be included on the payroll. Supervisors also need to make sure that they are now, when the payroll is done, because those things now are done by HR, or the human resource, and finance. But you find that sometimes an employee is underpaid, sometimes they're overpaid. So sometimes an employee is also even omitted, even after having worked. Colleagues, this issue we have to emphasize. A supervisor's job, it is not just to be shouting, do the job, do this, hey, you haven't done this. But when it comes to payment, somebody is saying I haven't gotten paid. And, no, CHR first. Okay. We have said this before. You are dealing with human beings who have thoughts and feelings. Two things. We have to emphasize thoughts and feelings. That person is not going to look at you, or they will say, okay, so when it comes to work, this guy is always on my back. He's always shouting, and I have to, even when I'm sick or I'm not feeling well, I still do the job. Now I have a problem with my payroll. I haven't gotten, it's because sometimes the people get to be omitted. And the person is saying, boss, please help me to talk to HR. Those are your problems. No. What we are emphasizing on effective employee management is that you have to look at things in totality. That person that you are supervising is yours, and you have to now make sure that you are taking good care of them in terms of the payroll, make sure they have gotten paid, you get in touch with the HR, because sometimes HR also might forget, or finance has not done a good job. Follow up, they show them. And if the employee is required now, also give them time. Because sometimes you are in the site. For those companies where everything is done within the company, it's an easy thing. But you find that in sometimes there are people working outside and they are going there. So if the person requires some time to now go to HR, give them that time. Okay, go sort out your issues. Rather than, okay, you people, you have been going to HR for 3 hours. I'll deduct from your time card. What are you doing? Clearly, that's not a stone you are dealing with. The person will look at you, and we have been saying this on this show, you are better off with an employee who has left than an employee who is still with you and psychologically they have left. Because now you'll just be saying, oh, okay. Oh, no problem, boss. We will recover the time. You were not reasonable. Even the employer at some point becomes unreasonable. They start only to give you, only to the extent you ask them. Move that 2 meters, they just push. They don't, even when they could have pushed that thing to 5 meters. So employees should be taken good care of at the payroll stage. Make sure you look at everything. There are benefits like we have talked about on this show in the previous episodes, where we have employee benefits, leave days. Help the employee if they need to go on leave. The person has a funeral, they have problems, maybe whatever it is, it's maternity, they need to go on, or it's, what do you call those, Mother's Day? It is a supervisor's job to ensure that the employees are enjoying those benefits. So, rather than now, you now become the one hindering them from enjoying certain benefits. So we have seen companies where the benefits are there, the books are there, and the books are not even shared with supervisors or HR. They are just there in the HR's office. No. Supervisors should ensure that their employees understand even the benefits. If the supervisor can't advise the employees on certain benefits, call HR, that's why they are there. They are paid to make sure that employees are aware of what the employer can provide. Come talk to the employees, so that in that way, the employees know issues around salary advances, what will be the procedure, what else do we have, gratuity, if they want to do loans and all those things. Employees need to know those things, and it is a supervisor who need to make sure that he or she is showing interest, that the employees need to enjoy those kind of benefits.
Amazing, well explained. If you've just joined us, this is Labor Matters right here on KBN TV. Remember this show, it is KBN TV and Mr. Owen Katongo Kabanda's show. If you have any comments, questions or contributions, please do use the number which is right on your TV screen. Text us, don't call. And emphasis, I have been receiving a number of calls. Don't call, just give us a text and we'll read messages right here before we close the show. So please don't call us, just give us a text message. We'll read them right here on KBN TV.
I was told by someone that they really want to be calling in, so.
I have been receiving quite a number of calls right now.
We'll work on something.
I think a lot of people want to call in, they want to have a conversation with Mr. Kabanda and not just send text messages. Please.
Definitely it's something we're working on to just make sure that your concerns are taken care of. Maybe. But we have to make provisions that they have to speak maybe under a minute.
Under a minute, because I know there are a lot of people that would want to speak under 5 minutes.
Yeah, last week when we just walked out of finished the show, and somebody now was on call talking for over 10 minutes. So we'll try to see how we can better serve you.
Amazing. So as I said earlier, if you have any questions, comments or contributions about our topic of discussion for today, please do use the number which is right on your TV screen. Coming to you, Doctor, maybe we can talk about performance management, which is very crucial. How do supervisors or managers fit into this process?
Okay, so the issue of performance management, supervisors, just like the issue of recruitment, they start from the ground. The job descriptions, supervisors should understand that, because as they're assessing the people's performance, they have to understand what was expected of that particular employee from onset. They also need to understand the plan that that particular employee had put in place over a specific period. Assuming it's a probation period, the supervisor should understand that within this month, say 3 months, this particular employee should do A to D. With assessing the performance of the particular employee, they'll be able to spot weak areas of the employees and find ways of how to help the employees resolve those issues. Does an employee need further training in a particular area? So it's all through performance management that the supervisor will be able to ascertain how to help the employee, as well as motivation, because sometimes employees get to be slow in the way they do a particular thing. It could be just an issue of motivation. Maybe the equipment is there, like Mr. Kabanda said, you are telling somebody to move something, say 10 inches, and they're only moving 2. So you need to understand them as you are doing your performance management to see, okay, what's bothering this person? Is it an issue of motivation? How can I engage this person? How can I assist? Do I need to do in-house training? Do I need to bring in an external person to attend to this particular person? So supervisors do play a very big role in terms of performance management of their employees. So communication, engagement, all those are something that supervisors should take keen interest with regards to their employees.
Mr. Kabanda, coming to you, Doctor has just talked about the issue of training. So what responsibilities do supervisors and managers hold in this area?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to employees, remember, like there are institutions that have what we call maybe the qualification and experience matrix, or they have done job evaluation. So what then happens is that you're going to have different job grades, okay? And in each job grade, so let's say there's grade 1 for the CEO, grade 2 for the chiefs or directors, grade 3 for maybe managers and so on, all the way up to the lowest level. And in each of these job grades, then you have maybe the entry qualifications. So you'll find that people really will when they are coming into the company, they may have the necessary qualifications, which help them to get the job. Sometimes, especially like for smaller companies, some they don't even have this job grading system. They don't have minimum qualifications. They just hire. So the supervisor's role in that particular case is that even for people who are qualified or those who are not qualified, the supervisor should be a mentor and a coach at the same time. That is really the starting point. You need to, this business that the supervisors have, which also should come to an end. You have a junior here that you are working with, and you don't want to mentor them, or because of the fear that, you know, Kazani Pokanchito, what's wrong with that? You know, I can't train this. No, because now they become, no, anytime, and this when we do trainings for managers, one of the things we emphasize, if you find yourself with that kind of thought crossing your mind, you should already know that there's something wrong with me. Because the moment you have a junior that you're working with, and that junior is becoming better and better, it frees up your time to also focus on other things. Unless you are a manager who is just up here, you have reached your ceiling. Because if I have a junior who is doing very well, I've mentored them, then it means I have now more time to focus on other strategic things. Because remember, in running businesses or companies, you have the strategic level and you have the operational level. If you are going to spend more time on operations, doing this, typing this, instead of, remember we are talking even about planning, we expect a manager or supervisor to spend even more time on strategic things like looking at those plans and so on. But if you are every time sorting out issues and you feel very nice, no, if we do have no, groom the people below you. There is nothing to fear. And if the junior comes and you know, is now promoted more than you, you just know that somewhere I didn't do very well. Because really, supervisors should be the first point, train your employees under you, and that even creates a better team for you. You start winning, you start becoming more and more efficient. Train them. If there are also opportunities for going to do some other trainings outside the institution, the supervisor needs to engage HR. HR should look at, usually what happens for bigger companies, like we talked about planning, by the end of this year, for instance, they would have made plans even for what kind of training will be necessary for the employees coming next year, because they have everything in place. And even the trainings themselves, those trainings are also budgeted for way in advance. So supervisor will have to just make sure that HR is fulfilling those kind of requirements. In other companies where they don't do those things, the supervisor should also now go and talk to HR and discuss with finance to see, okay, my friend here, I think this employee requires Excel, or now she requires PowerPoint, or she requires this machine, whatever it is, that the kind of training that is required for particular skills, or whatever it is, the knowledge that the employee needs to have. So supervisors, managers, they need to make sure that the employees themselves, they should invest heavily in themselves also, learning more, getting more training, so that they become better, but also the people that are below them. Then the company can actually become better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Coming to you, I know Mr. Kabanda has touched the issue of sorting issues in organizations, but how do supervisors or managers handle discipline issues within their teams, and what role do they play in this process?
Okay, so as a supervisor, definitely you have people below you, the ones you're managing, so it's your responsibility as a supervisor to explain to your teams your expectations in line with the organizational policies, and ensure that your team comply with the policies as they are the set rules for the institution. So if your subordinate is violating what's set in the policies, it's your responsibility as the supervisor to take the necessary action. If it calls for you to take disciplinary action against that employee, it is the supervisor who should do that. So as a supervisor...
They like to say it's the HR.
Yes. You find most institutions, they're saying, well, by HR. supervisor will chase you better with the
Like, yeah, everywhere.
It's not the
No.
So it's not the HR, it's the supervisor's role. So they should ensure that their people are working in line with the set policies. We all don't like disciplining people, so we should just ensure that we do the right thing, we follow the policies. To go back a little bit to recruitment, so when recruitment is done, policies should be explained to the employee. So during the induction process, the employee should be taught what the do's and don'ts are. If you have a disciplinary code, make sure you explain it to them, and as a supervisor, you should understand what's in there, because it's going to be difficult for you to discipline your subordinates if you yourself do not understand it. So as a supervisor, make sure you understand the policies. They'll help you as you are dealing with your subordinates and issues of discipline in the institution.
Amazing. Coming to you, Mr. Kabanda. This is quite an interesting conversation, I must say. Maybe we can talk about regarding grievance management. What role do supervisors or managers play when it comes to resolving employee concerns or conflicts?
Yeah, so like what Doc was talking about, so she was explaining on the side of the employer. So it's important to understand that in employment relationship there are two sides of the same coin. You have the employer and the employee on the other side. So what Doc was explaining is when the employer has a grievance against the employee, and like she said, the supervisors, they need to make sure that they have themselves understood the policy, and they are going to follow the disciplinary process when need be. But on the other side of the coin is the employees. Also, the employee has a right to complain against the employer. And remember what we said, the employer in this case is not it's not some building. It's not a KBN, it's not whatever other institution that can be there, or whatever business. The employer in this case involves the supervisors, because they represent the company. So when the employees have a grievance, they also need to go through a certain process. Supervisors have to make sure, first of all, be there for the employee, because some of the complaints really are very small, are minor. At the very beginning, the employer, in this case the supervisor, should listen to the concerns. If the concern is beyond them, then that issue can be escalated to the supervisor, or HR now gets to be involved. The key issue is that the supervisors also need to make sure they understand the internal grievance procedures. Some companies don't have these things, and this is why we emphasize, if you don't have disciplinary codes in place, grievance procedures in place, bring a consultant to set those things for you so that everything is properly set. So the supervisor, when these processes are in place, supervisor should make sure that the employee follows those grievance procedures. But key to it is to make sure that their employees' concerns are being handled timely, not after 3 years. Because once the employee feels that they are not being heard, then those are the things that leads to withdrawal, and then sometimes it leads to even work stoppages, especially in companies where you even have unions. So a little thing that you could have sorted out as a supervisor, you haven't done so, and even the other supervisor hasn't also done the same, and employees keep on complaining, the next thing it blows up. Now it will lead to the production shutting down, when all those things could have been avoided. So what we can emphasize really is supervisors need to listen quickly to the employee grievances and concerns, and work also with HR to make sure that employees are well taken care of.
Amazing. Maybe we can also talk about situations involving staff separations. It becomes emotional in certain organizations, I must say. Like, how do supervisors or managers manage staff separations, such as dismissal, resignation, or maybe retirements? How should supervisors manage such issues? Starting with you, Doc.
Okay, so when you have issues of staff separation, it's important for the supervisor to engage the employee. One way you can engage them is through exit interviews. You should be able to understand what has led to the person leaving, in order for you to avoid a similar thing happening with another employee. It's a lot of work having to find someone to come and fill up that position. So it's good for supervisors to understand what could have gone wrong, or Is it for greener pastures, as most of us would say when we're living? We say, okay, greener pastures.
Go for greener pastures.
Yes, and if there's room for flexibility within the organization, you can try and improve the areas which led to the employee leaving. Some situations, there isn't much we can do as supervisors, but you can still make a recommendation to those higher than you in order to motivate employees who are existing, the ones who've remained. We would want to keep the ones that have remained as opposed to seeing everybody leave, because what would an organization be without anyone? If people leave, we may end up bringing people who are going to bring negative energy to the institution. So exit interviews would play a big role to understand why people are leaving.
Amazing. Mr. Kabanda, take.
Yeah, staff separation, really, the supervisors have a big role to play. They need to make sure, like what Doctor said, understand why the employee is leaving. Also, supervisors need to understand the reason for staff separation. Sometimes it's dismissal. You will then make sure that you deal with that employee in a manner that they need to be dealt with. Issues to do with getting the company equipment. In many companies, when the person is going, supervisors need to make sure that they collect the company property, be it laptops or whatever machinery or whatever it is that the employee had. But also making sure that really the separations are done in a professional manner. There is no need to start as a supervisor celebrating because one person is going. Even if you hated that person with passion, it is not necessary. You start now jumping around, celebrating, because you never know what happens in this life. That very person you're celebrating, they are going, maybe they are connected to someone else, which will come and hammer you at the end of the day. So it's just be professional. And sometimes you find that where they have gone, that's where you also want to come and go. And they'll say, oh, boss, now we are here. So really, professionalism is extremely important. If you're a Christian, be a Christian. Separate it properly. Say goodbyes, and just make sure that the person is also gotten paid what is due to them. Close the chapter.
Just like that.
Close the chapter, and they also maybe just to add that they need to supervisors now when the other person has gone, they need to realign in terms of redistribute the jobs as they are waiting for somebody else to be recruited. So that in terms of productivity of the company, that is not very much affected. So quickly redistribute and talk to the staff so that also there is not so much of speculation. They see that the person, their friend, has just left.
Amazing. Now, Mr. Kabanda, how do supervisors and managers contribute to overall company operations and the critical factor of employee engagement?
Yeah, as we've been talking about these things, really you can see a certain pattern that supervisors and managers and CEOs of companies, they play a critical role in making sure that an institution actually succeeds. If the managers only want to be called managers and just enjoy the title and not put in the work that is required of them, then you have an institution that has problems. The supervisors and managers, they need to sit down and make the necessary plans. They need to look critically about the budgets. They need to look at the culture that they have to create in this institution so that everybody is focused on one thing. If you are a manager or a supervisor who does not know where they are going, you end up being very disruptive. You end up frustrating the employees. So it's important that as managers and supervisors, they work on creating a work environment that is conducive. That environment in which when people wake up every day, they are saying, I'm going to work, I'm going to contribute to something big. Then even the issues of salaries sometimes become not so much of an issue because people are more happy. They should look at what can be the things we can do in this company, in this organization, to make people happy and engaged. This business that, yes, money is extremely important, but at some point, you need to work on the culture that is created in that environment so that people enjoy it as they are working.
Amazing. This has been an amazing conversation, I must say. Maybe we can read one or two text messages from our viewers.
Sure.
The first one reads, Good afternoon, Mr. Kabanda. Quite interesting discussion on effective employee management. In instances where supervisors are always referring their subordinates to help on almost everything, could it be that the supervisors lack supervisory skills, or are there other ways to address such situations?
Really, supervisors should take responsibility. Those issues, we know them a lot. Where you, when the person comes, no, no, take responsibility, understand if you can resolve their issues, find a way to resolve or escalate the matters. Unless the boss says that's the way they want to do things, but really supervisors should take full responsibility and then deal with the, otherwise why are they there?
If you can read the last one. What a nice topic. I'm a concerned teacher in Eastern Province. We have worked for 10 months now and no responsibility allowance has been given. When we try to follow up the issue at the Shipata, they are not giving us a time frame when we shall be given. Our friends in the same district are getting while others are not getting. We have engaged the head to authority and at depth, but they are not helpful. Help us to find out from Eastern PA or why teachers are not given responsibility allowance. Has this affecting us, and the pupils will be affected? Morale is getting low due to motivation concerns teacher in Eastern Province.
Yeah, again, those issues, I think you heard Doc talk about the recruitment. At the time of recruitment, the people who are responsible for recruitment need to make things very clear to the employees, in this case the teachers, what is it that they're entitled to. And if they're entitled to those things, then what is the problem? That issue needs to be very clear. This business that some people just say, okay, we are looking into it. We know that is the English that what you are looking into what? The issue is be very candid. If things are not happening, be clear to the people. And if there are time frames that need to be given, give proper time frames, and people need to be told when exactly their issue may be resolved. But we will forward the message to the relevant authorities.
Amazing. This has been quite an insightful conversation. Thank you, Mr. Owen, Katongo, Kabanda, and Dr. Maureen Mulozi for your comprehensive insight. We do appreciate your insightful conversation right here on KBN TV and Labour Matters.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your last remarks as we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Patricia, for having me around today. Mr. Kabanda, it's been a pleasure being on the show.
Thank you.
And just a word to supervisors, please let's ensure we communicate and engage with our employees so that we can have employees who deliver on the mandate of our various organizations. Employees ensure to equally approach your supervisors when necessary. Sometimes supervisors don't get to see that they need to communicate. They may think, oh, it's well.
Yeah.
That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabanda. Last remarks.
Really, it's just to encourage employees to continue applying themselves well, and employers, in this case supervisors, to make sure they do the right thing. Where supervisors and managers think they might be lacking in certain areas, there are opportunities for training. They go for workshops, they get to be properly trained so that they start doing the right thing. Otherwise, work should be enjoyable and fun.
Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. This has been Labour Matters right here on KBN TV, channel 279, GSTV 27, Go TV 1, and Road to Topstar, and Google Live on our Facebook page. So if you have just joined us, please do go on KBN TV Facebook page. You will find this live program, and let's keep this conversation going. You can get to comment on our Facebook page. If you have any questions, comments, or contributions, we will follow those comments right on our page. I have been your host, Patricia Chilanuka, and today we are looking at an interesting topic, which is effective employee management. And I believe you have learned one or two things from our discussion for today. Until next week, Sunday, same time, same place. It's goodbye, God bless, and stay tuned to KBN TV.